Kia ora tātou, welcome back to Wargaming Den. Um, Something just a wee bit different today. Another game of the rules that I've been working on. This time, though, my friend Ian came down for the weekend, so we thought we'd try out my rules. So I came up with a couple of balanced forces, and we just played a pretty basic meeting engagement just to actually try the rules out with an actual opponent to pick up any major holes or inconsistencies, which no doubt there were a few. But let's have a look at the forces, eh? Right, so the British force, British Indian force, actually, Commonwealth force, let's call it that, consisted of a company HQ with a forward observer, 2 rifle platoons, a couple of stag hound armoured cars to check out the Wrecker rules I've been working on, 3 Shermans, a Vickers, 6-pounder, and 48 combat strength, 24 breakpoint using the very general breakpoint system that I've got so far. Basically, a tank's worth 3 points, an armoured car's worth 2 points, and every infantry team knocked out is worth 1 point towards the breakpoint of the company. And let's have a look at the Germans, who are pretty much a mirror of the Brits. And the Germans are very similar to the British. 2 grenadier platoons have got the company HQ and observer as well. A couple of 250/9 armoured cars, 3 Panzer IVs, a medium machine gun, and a Pak 38. Combat strength, a couple less, 46 points, and their break point is 23. So they're pretty much identical mirrors of each other. So we'll see how the rules play out. And here we've got the meeting engagement scenario that I've come up with as one of the 2 so far scenarios for the game. So basically, attacker starts 12 inches in on a 6x4 table. Their objectives are at least 30 inches away, which means that you can't do a reconnaissance move up a road and grab an objective on turn 1. Turn 2, possibly, and the defender is the opposite of that their objectives are 30 inches across the table from their starting zone. So the idea is it's a bit of a fluid game, and hopefully it'll give us a good feel for how the rules play. Okay, so British start somewhere along here. This is before we deployed. Reasonably terrain heavy-ish table, I think. There's not too many big lines of sights. The tree rows here block line of sight, but pretty much everything else is just concealing apart from the 2 wooded areas, and of course the buildings block line of sight. British objectives, I think one's here, one ends up over here somewhere. My objectives are probably over here, and I think maybe one over here. We'll find out on the first turn. So the idea is that you start with your HQs on table, any reconnaissance units, and up to 3 other units can deploy on table. And then from turn 3 onwards, you roll a D3 for how many of your off-table reserves come on. So the idea is that troops are going to be drip fed into the battle. So hopefully that will work out. We will see in a minute. That's better. Okay, playtest, turn 1. British had initiative and advanced to capture most of the village. The Germans fired a mortar barrage at the end of their turn and pinned a platoon commander, but not much else happened. Right, so just a bit of an overview. Here's one of the stag hound armoured cars here. We had reconnaissance moves at the start of the game, so we rolled off to see who went first, and then we alternated. So one of the stag hounds advanced here. The other one advanced somewhere up here on the road from memory. It could advance 24 inches along the road, and then in the second turn advance around there. One of my 250/9s is here, just behind here, out of the woods and line of sight, but wanting to contest that objective if necessary. My other one is back here against the hedge line, so it can shoot up here. That's one of the objectives. There's the other one there for Ian. Oh, actually, I'm trying to capture the bridge by the looks of it, and an ammo dump in the supply area here. So there's a stag hound. Sherman's advanced into the built-up area. Ian did the opposite to me, actually. He threw his company commander all the way forward really quickly. So that's him up here. That's the guy that I pinned, the platoon commander. Dingo scout car. I think there's an observer possibly in there. That's my company commander there, and he doesn't look at from here, but he actually had line of sight through there, which is why he put the artillery around there, or it might have been here and then it drifted, because using a bit like battle group that you roll 2d6 and a scatter dice to see where your artillery falls, but I'm not sure whether we'll continue with that. I'm not sure if it actually added anything overall to the game. I've also got a Panzer IV on table here that looks like I think that's my forward observer team, and I've got a squad of infantry here as well to contest that objective. On to turn 2. Turn 2. Ian's continuing to be sneaky. Move this other car forward. Debust into some buildings and things. The only combat that happened was my 250 armoured car actually rolled a 6 and hit the stag hound. No damage, and it was fine. So turn 3, our first reserves can arrive. Okay, so just tucked down here is my armoured car. 2 orders there to show fired an artillery. He spotted for artillery. My tank came across. The staghound's just lurking in here. So the way I'm doing it, if you hit an armoured vehicle, or actually any team, if it makes cover saves or an armour save in the case of an armoured vehicles and is successful, then you've got to make a motivation check, a morale check. Typically regular troops on a 4+, and if you pass that you're fine, but if you fail that you are pinned. So just playing around with some different pinning mechanisms. I've driven my pack 38 on here as well. Not much else can be seen. Oh, there's a Sherman lurking over there. Hello, Mr. Sherman. And there's the other stag hound back there. Right, turn 3, there was a little bit of shooting. The Germans went first. The Sherman tried to hit the Panzer IV but missed. My little armoured car actually hit and pinned the staghound, but the staghound rallied and then missed me. My mortars failed to range in, and on to turn 4. So Ian went first. In my turn, I called in some regimental guns and actually knocked out a Sherman that turned out to be his command Sherman. I actually hit the section of infantry in that building, and Ian passed 5 infantry saves, so no casualties there. He fired at my truck with my Pack 38 and caused 1 casualty. I saved 2 of the hits on that and then deployed the gun. The staghounds have, I think, second one advanced. Anything else interesting happened that turn? More Indian troops are arriving from reserve over here. I think that was it, wasn't it?
Yes.
Okay, turn 5. And before we move on, just a quick overview. So there's the 2 staghounds, my armoured car there, my Panzer IV there. That's the Sherman that got knocked out. Another Sherman has advanced nearby, and that's the 3rd Sherman there. This objective is looking a wee bit vulnerable. I've got a Pack 38 trying to cover it, a spotter, and I've got some men back there, but I'm starting to worry about that side. I've got a squad of infantry advancing towards the tree line. Ian's advancing his Indians across the creek over there, and that could be a command stand there by the looks of it. So just nibbling away at each other currently.
Okay, a very interesting turn. The Germans went first. Panzer IV advanced through the forest and knocked out a Sherman that had been damaged by the Pak 38. Random firing over here from me. Ian returned the favour by bringing in big artillery and he killed the Pak 38, a couple of infantry stands and a spotter, which was very handy. This staghound over here got fired at the infantry there but missed them all. So the artillery was kind of decisive that turn. On to turn 6.
Well, here we have the two knocked out Shermans thanks to the Pak 38 and the Panzer. I think my Panzer IV advanced, knocked out the Sherman, and then returned fire from the other Sherman that could draw line of sight across there, knocked out my Panzer IV. That artillery strike over here was pretty brutal. Destroyed about 4 teams, I think, maybe 5, including the Pak 38. So that wasn't good for my cause. I'm advancing towards the ruins here. My armoured car is also advancing. Here's an Indian section advanced with another one coming up behind. The staghounds have pulled back as I'm trying to put a bit of pressure on with the Panzer IV advancing as well. So an interesting turn, that one.
Okay, a good turn for the British. Germans went first. They failed to spot those Indian troops advancing through the cornfields. My armoured car, which now looks dead, hit the staghound and pinned it. It unpinned later in the turn, and then the others. Then when it unpinned, it actually knocked out my little armoured car. I got hit by a mortar barrage over here that killed my platoon command team and another team, so that was more losses. And then at the end of the turn, Ian charged in and routed another German squad. So the Germans are currently sitting on 15 losses versus 6, which is the 2 dead Sherman. So the initiative looks like in the British quarter. Right, turn 7, not a great deal of action. The Germans went first, had very few orders, only 6. And the panzers and the infantry failed to spot the Indians in the field that have basically gone to ground. So I didn't actually have any shooting. The British have captured or double timed onto this objective, so I've got to get within 3 of that or lose the game. And the mortars ranged in and just missed my Kampfgruppe HQ team. So I don't think either of us fired any dice in anger that turn. On to turn 8.
Right, things are looking a bit dicey. Ian spotted that I had left this slightly more open than I intended, so just advanced an infantry squad past this, out of this building and over here. Got another section up in here. The Indians are up here and my Germans are there. We're still mucking around over here between the armoured cars. More reinforcements are arriving, but if I can't clear these guys off, then I am in trouble. We've kind of been using spotting rules very similar, or probably exactly the same as battle groups, and I'm not 100% sold on not being able to spot guys in the open. It was a 1 I rolled, so that was, I guess, fair enough, but we are looking at changing the spotting rule so that only units that are in concealing terrain will you need, and haven't fired, will you need to roll to spot. If anything's fired, it's automatically going to be revealed. Teams in the open are going to be able to be shot, but if they've gone to ground or they're pinned, basically they're hugging the ground, it's just going to be the same as if they were concealed. It'll be a -1 on your chance to hit, which will hopefully work. But overall, yeah, I was happy with the way most of the shooting rules worked. But that's one thing I'm definitely looking to change. And same, looking to streamline the artillery rules. But I'm not sure if putting a marker down and then rolling your 2d6 a la battle groups the way to go. I might go for a slightly different tweak to that next time. But happy actually with the assault rules, the way they've worked out. But need to work out some rules for assaulting tanks, and I think I've come up with that today, to be fair. Okay, turn 8. Ian, these guys have gone to ground. That's what started using bolt action dice just to mark things. Seem to be a bit easier actually, and I think I might look at a similar system to that in future. But these infantry have gone to ground. To try and contest, I advanced my 250 armoured car forward, failed to spot those guys to machine gun them, wasn't going to do too much anyway, and then I got hit by that Sherman and blown up, so I couldn't contest. And just out of sight here, about 3.5 inches away, was my Panzerschreck that advanced, and then I think failed to hit the Sherman. It was just out of contesting range. You needed to be within 3 inches. Basically, these objective rules have been lifted, adapted, slightly borrowed, call it what you will, from Flames of the World. I actually think that's one of the strengths of Flames is the objective system, where once you capture an objective, the game ends. I'm not overly fussed on the battle group. You just draw a battle chit and things continue. Battle group just, I don't know, just ends up as an attritional chit thing, and I'm not happy with the way and the reasons why some of the chits are drawn all the time. So this was my attempt to come up with a system for me that's going to make objectives important. It works in Flames, works quite well in Flames. So I thought, actually, let's try that. And I was very happy with how that went. So there we have it, a little playtest game. Really enjoyed that. Ian came all the way down from Christchurch and was happy to adapt ideas as we went and rely on me telling him how things could work, should work, I think work. And we had a few discussions about ways to tweak or improve things, and that was really good. And it was really good having an actual opponent, because he played his command teams a lot more aggressively than I tend to do, so that was really good. The one area I probably overcompensated though was I decided that instead of just rolling 2d6 for orders for this size game, to do 2d6 plus 2 for your company commander plus 1 for each platoon commander on table, so up to a +5. And as it turned out, I think that was too many. I think I'll just give a +2 next game for having your Kampfgruppe commander, so that there is still that variability in dice rolls. Ian pretty much every turn had more than enough orders to do everything that he wanted to do. I had the last 3 turns, I ended up rolling, I think, 5, 6, 7 orders sometimes, so it didn't quite work. The other tweak I've done is made it in some ways a little bit like O Group with their reaction fire rules, kind of. The idea being you roll each turn to see who gets initiative for that turn, so it's not guaranteed. But once you've moved a unit or fired a unit, one enemy unit can be given a reaction order to shoot at that unit if it so wishes. So trying to break up the I go, you go a wee bit without having to put things on Overwatch or reaction fire, but add a wee bit of fluidity, which I quite enjoy in O Group, the way that their reactions work, but not having orders and then reaction orders. And the opponent, if you use a reaction order to fire in the enemy's turn once they've moved and or fired, then you don't get another order that turn. So that's a kind of a bit of a compromise there. I think it worked, but yeah, I have to probably next time play the game with slightly less orders so that there's more hard decisions. But for the type of game I'm trying to create, which is basically a couple of platoons or a company of infantry, 3 platoons, and a support of a troop of tanks maximum, ideally, or maybe a couple of troops of tanks with a platoon or 2 of infantry. It's working well. I'm happy with it. It gives the feel that I'm after. I am tweaking things. I've just, as I said earlier, come up with some ideas for some tank assault rules, I think. But Flames to me is too tank centric these days. I want a game where it's more about the infantry and just a few supports, and this is giving the feel that I'm after, really. Lots of tweaking still to be done, and I've come up with a few changes to the artillery rules and simplifying the shooting a wee bit that I'm going to be using in the next playtest. But overall, happy with the way the rules work. The basic mechanics flow quite nicely, and it made for a fun, reasonably fast game that doesn't get too bogged down, and it is a game about movement, which is what I wanted as well. I didn't want a static just sit there and shoot and the infantry is irrelevant. I want a game where it's really mainly about the infantry, and I think I'm getting that right feel for that, and that's a kind of, as I said, that's what I'm wanting this game to do for me. Happy with the 20mm figures. Ian, actually, he's going, oh my god, are these 28mm? Because he's been gaming in 15mm and developing his forces. I said, no, Ian, these are 20mm. He's going, oh my god, we actually gamed at this size when we first started gaming back in the late 70s, when we used to game up in his parents' loft in the garage, many years ago now. But it's strange. It's funny, after you've been used to 15mm, how big 20mm actually are. And I think for this size table, I think ideally a 6x5 table would be perfect, or an 8x5. It gives a better feel, 20mm, than 28mm figures on this size table. The ranges and bolt action are just simply too short, and it looks a bit naff, to be fair. You need, to me, to do bolt action justice, you need to be playing it on an 8x5 or 8x6 table to get the weapon ranges reasonable for the size of the vehicles. I know it's really popular and fair enough to people that like it. It's not my cup of tea. I've had no interest in getting the 3rd edition of that. I'm actually, as you can see, tinkering around with God's own scale 20mm and my own rules, which is doing it for me. But anyway, I have been seriously waffling, so I apologize if you made it this far. You've done very well. Until next time, take care, happy gaming, and catch you down the road sometime. Ka kite anō. Take care. Have a great week.